I don't give a shit what I say. I'll say what I like. I'm in my own, and I'd say it anywhere. I don't care who.
Mrs. Ross, why do you think it is that that Protestants and Catholics just can't live together in Belfast?
There's nothing to keep Protestants and Catholics from living together, for they've lived together for years. But there'll never be any friendship between Protestant and Catholics again. There's a bitterness, and myself, I'm only speaking for myself. I never had no grudge against nobody, but now I have a bitterness in me. A real bad bitterness, a revenge that I know these people that burned these houses must have had and has all the time while I have it now.
Do you have many friends or relatives who are Protestants?
Well, I have, my father was a Protestant and he come from the Shankill Road and he was a decent man, but his people weren't so decent because they never let my mother and father have a minute's peace. And that's 40, I'm 67 now. And I never don't know my Protestant friends. But I have Protestant friends from here. I can meet anybody going from here to the Shankill or anybody around the back. They're all good neighbours. I couldn't say nothing about them. But I know rightly that it's Paisley. And he's proud, and I don't care who's in it, whether they're my friends or not. Anybody connected with Paisley has a hand in this here, and anything else has happened in Belfast. And the UVF. And from now on, we're going to make and get a band of men and women and children, and we're going to train them up the way the Russians has them trained, that they must do their duty, because it's the only way we can live here.
Do you think this bitterness really is going to help?
Yes, it'll help me, because these people has got revenge. Why should I not get revenge, or the rest of the people it's about here?
But do you not think that Protestants and Catholics, even in a district like this, can ever live together?
Well, now that's a big question. Could they never live together? How are we going? I'm 43 years here. I have had a good life, but you'd always that wee fear. You'd always that fear. Everybody had. And they're the bravest people and the friendliest people that ever lived round about here. And they blame the IRA. There's no IRA that I know of about, but I wished I had been an IRA woman. I would have been here on the spot and had a machine gun.
You seem to be telling me something that's very depressing. In other words, that really in this area, at any rate, there's no future for Protestants and Catholics together. Is that right? The
Protestants and Catholics could live together, but they have too many army. They have too many armies, both UVF, the Paisleyites, everybody knows it, the government. Everybody is everybody, but we have nothing. We're not supposed, if we had anybody here in this street was an IRA man, they'd be in 5 minutes from now if you go and report that, and they'll have them arrested. They'll have half of the people around about arrested, and they don't know who they are, but they're supposed to be IRA men.
Ignore all this, just concentrate and forget about it.
Do you think, really, that Protestants and Catholics can ever live together in the city of Belfast?
Well, there are some Protestants and Catholics who are fanatical, but they seem to be the older generation who have been through all this bitterness before and they can't forget. But I think younger people are better educated and they have more intelligence now. And I think they could. I know we could anyway. And we do. But it's very hard for old people to forget. And maybe that's why everyone's so bitter.
What do you think people can do? I mean, what positive things can people do, both Protestants and Catholics, do you think, to achieve this?
Well, they can, instead of having falling out with each other in their various works, they can just, well, maybe just pretend it didn't happen. And I know that seems a sort of a stupid way out, but just treat each other as if it didn't happen and go on, because if everybody's revengeful, it'll just keep on and on and on, and all the small kids that have seen this happening now, they'll remember, and it'll just keep on and on until this place is just a battleground, until it's like another Biafra.
Do you feel the same way?
I do, yes. I think possibly both our Roman Catholic and Protestant church leaders could do a lot more. I think they could educate the ordinary people a lot more. For instance, I think possibly, they could tell their congregations a lot more about the other religion, exactly what it's about, and not have this fear. I mean, the basic thing is fear. People are really afraid of each other, and they don't know what it is they're afraid of. It's so silly.
Are you afraid? I mean, do you feel this?
I don't, but I think people of it, people of a certain intelligence really do fear this, because they don't know enough about their neighbours, they don't know enough about the people they live with and work with. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that two men can work together and be happy at work and then go home at night and, hate each other when they get outside their work doors. It's ridiculous.
And sometimes when it comes to individuals, there isn't the hate. But when it comes to the mob, it's the mob that, I don't know, this terrible terror that goes through them all and makes them all do this madness.
Do you think that enough, say, Protestants and Catholics both realise they're talking to the same God?
No, I think sometimes that if the people had a bit more belief that there was a God, I mean, when it comes to the point, they all go to the same maker.
Yes, I think the main point, I mean, Belfast here, we all fight about religion, but I would say 75% of so-called Christians never go near church, I mean, they don't know enough about religion to fight about it.
It all boils down to being charitable to each other, like brotherly love. I know that sounds maybe corny to a lot of people, but like that's all it is. Why should you hate people? I mean, why can't you live together? Why can't it be like England, where people don't really care what your religion is or what your beliefs? They all just work together. After all, you have children and you want to look after them. You want to keep a home. Why destroy it all and live in this terrible atmosphere? And it is fear that causes it all, and I know that both sides are afraid. Protestants imagine that the Catholics are going to take them over, and Catholics, well, as you can see here, maybe it isn't imagination, know that the Protestants are trying to get rid of them. It's like the time of Cromwell or the Huguenots in France. It's...
You see, the thing is, the ordinary Protestant from the areas that were involved in this fighting, they're bred with hatred for Catholics, and I think the majority of Catholics hate and hated. I don't think they have no hatred in them themselves for anyone, but...
Well, no, that isn't quite right. I mean, you get the lunatic fringe everywhere. You get the fanatical Republican and all the rest.
Yeah, you do, but I mean, it has to go out. People have to go out and tell these people just exactly what they're, explain these fears, just explain things to them that they shouldn't be afraid, I mean, as you say, there's only one God, and there are a lot of ways of getting to him.
And why not go to him peacefully in your bed instead of in a carnage like this?
Mr. McMacken, is this your home here?
This is my home here.
What's happened to it?
Well, you see, it's burned and the roof's off it, and everything's burned upstairs and racked downstairs and burned as well, and scorched everything. You couldn't live. I mean, it's no use of talking about you couldn't live when there's no roof or anything, don't you know? That's it.
Do you feel bitter about this?
No, I'm not bitter about it, because bitterness would do no good, so it wouldn't. I consider that the mob that done this are an unthinking mob, and they're a mob that have been misled, don't you know? As I've said before, the Protestant people around Cooper Street and these adjoining streets, none of them had hand actor part in this, because I know most of them. There's a lot of young fellas between 17, 18 up to 24 or 5 years of age. There was no responsible Protestant actually taking part in the doing of this. Because I was here till 5 houses were on fire, and I thought it was time to leave then, don't you know? But I certainly have no bitterness, because bitterness would do no good, don't you know?
How do you think Protestants and Catholics in this city and this area can live together?
The bulk of the Protestants and Catholics in this city have no grievance with other. It's a few that's been led by extremists are responsible for this. The bulk of the Protestants are decent people. I have worked with them a lifetime. Very decent Protestants, never mad better. Just as good and as decent as the Catholic people. But it's the extremists that, leaders that egg this on, don't you know? They're more responsible. And the Protestant Church, I would say, doesn't stand for this carry on. It's only a mob that stands for this, don't you know?
And yet, of course, many people, understandably around here, are bitter. What do you say to them?
Well, you see, I suppose the bitterness is through their homes being burned and their clothes and their furniture and so forth like this. But out of bitterness, you'll not build a better country, don't you know? Like it'll have to be, all I'll have to be like them and try and build a better, as you hear them talking about a better world, a better Belfast or a better world, people will have to come. You can't keep that up forever, you get nowhere, don't you know?
Do you think that Protestants and Catholics in this city can do it?
They can, like the decent Protestant and the decent Catholic could pull together. But you see, it's at different times the mob that's misled come in to crack up any of that good community that Catholics and Protestants would try to form, do you see? But I believe like that it should be got over, don't you know, with an effort. But at the present time, I think the only one can bring about peace here now is the British government. Don't you know? Like they have more control of the situation. Leaving it to the parties that were fighting here, this thing would go on indefinitely, don't you know? That wouldn't be a good thing. So it wouldn't. For either side. Now, that's my opinion. So it is.
How do you think Protestants and Catholics in this city can ever live together in peace?
Well, so far as I'm concerned, they'll have to know each other better. They'll have to examine each other as individuals, get to know what they believe, get to know what makes them tick. And that is the only way, not by thinking that they believe something radically different from them, but to find out what they have in common. And I'm sure and certain that we all have quite a lot in common. The same as we have quite a lot of things that we hate in common as well. And this is one of the things which I think we should really hit to the very bottom of our heart, is the strife and enmity in our midst at the present moment.
How do you think people who've gone through this, through houses knocked down, we're sitting at the moment on the remains of a house, I mean, how do people who've undergone this learn to live with another person, or can they live with other people?
Well, the main problem, so far as Christianity is concerned, and my interpretation of this, that to be a Christian, to be a real Christian, you've got to be able to sit down even in poverty and in very adverse circumstances and thank God that you're able to even look around, even at the devastation itself, and to start life over again. That itself is a privilege, and we must look upon it that way, not with any recrimination in our heart, but rather thankfulness to God that we can raise up and even surpass ourselves.
Do you think that this is possible, and given the circumstances that exist in Belfast at the moment?
Giving a particular lead on the part of all churches, I believe, is quite possible for Christianity to rear its head again in the truest sense of the term.
What kind of a lead?
They must counsel their people, as quite a lot of them have done. I think it's one of the, I think it was just Dr. Gardner and the Cardinal have already said it, that vengeance is mine, thus saith the Lord, I will repay, and not take it upon themselves to do that sort of thing. And to get to love each other again, to really get to know and to love each other. That is the main problem in life today.
Do you have any hope that in Belfast at the moment that the community can learn to grow up?
Yes, they must. They must look at other situations that have taken place in the past, learn a lesson from that. We've had this place, this is the third time in my memory, 1920, 1935 I think, and now 1939. And with past experience, we should take that as a lesson and a guide and amend our lives accordingly.
I need one. I haven't had a bath all week.
Do you not feel that people can live together?
You couldn't live with them people. Not if you reared them.
Not those people have done that, but the average Protestant didn't do this. It's the Paisleyite element done this.
Do you think that the Protestants and Catholics can live together?
They can, but it'll be very difficult under the Unionist government because their whole policy, when you go for a Catholic's discriminated against when he goes for work. And the personnel staff and all these big firms, these extreme unionists are on the personnel staff. And they ask all leading questions to find out your religion. And they're not come out with it directly, but what school you go to, what
St. Thomas, you don't get the job. Simple as that.
what football team you play for, or what swimming club you play for. See, that's, and should this settle down, those people are still in power. I can only see peace here, and the Protestants and Catholics can live together under a Westminster government. They'll have to take it over. But under Unionist government, you see, when Major Chesterton Clark made that speech on the 12th of July, it was a bigot speech. This extreme Protestants, the Paisleyites, knew they could go ahead with this. See, the moderate Prime Minister, they'd got rid of him.
What about it?
Terence O'Neill. Now, I want to put another aspect of it. Here's an excellent opportunity for the Protestant people, the decent Protestant people, to come out and help the Catholics. The onus is on them now. To come in, shift furniture, to help in any way possible. And that way, the people can conquer this extreme element and live together. But I've seen very few of them, though there is plenty of them, Morgan, but not enough. The moderate Protestant at the moment's just sitting still, though he disapproves of this, but he's taking no active action in it.
Do you think that that Protestants and Catholics can live together, and if so, how?
Well, the only thing I could see they could do would be live one every other house and bring them up together instead of putting them on this side of the street and one on the other side of the street.
Would you mind that?
No, I wouldn't mind that at all.
Integrate schools, would you?
Yes, bring them up together from no height.
Integrated education, then, would you say?
I think that would be the best plan for them all.
It'll have to come about. It's the only way that they get to know each other. See, they've been in too many ghettos, Catholics and Protestants. That system would have to be broke up.
After all this has happened, I mean, do you feel bitterness, or do you feel that you can still get along with people if they're prepared to get along with you? What about you?
Don't know. Wouldn't your answer? Tell them the truth. What do you want?
Come on.
Saying that.
Do you think people can get along?
Not after that. Not for a while. In another 20 years, you might get somebody coming up that.
Well, listen,
not just now.
You're going to get married eventually, probably, and bring up a family. I mean, do you want?
Thanks.
do you want your family to grow up with this kind of carnage around them?
No, but there's nothing you can do about it, you know.
Do you not think there's anything you can do?
Nothing you can do about it. Then make it up to them, but you couldn't. You wouldn't let you.
I mean, surely there are many Protestants and Catholics on both sides who despise and abhor what's happened.
You do get them. They're not all bad, but 90% of them are.
90%?
I would say 90% of them, yes. Well, have to go.
90% of what did he say?
No, we were just talking.
At exactly 6:15, will you?
At 6:15, right?
And I'll be there to meet you to get your stuff out, okay?
That's dead on.
Now,
That's dead
dead
on.
on at 6:15.
I'll be
won't you
there.
now?
I'll be there. I'm going up now to bring small stuff down, see, like a dolphin thing. See,
Have
serious.
you got a couple of helpers? So you can
I have
give
a
me
couple of
hand, will you?
helpers, yes.
You don't mind?
No, I've got 4 men.
Good enough. Well, you
Cousins
be
and
you be
relations.
at Dominican Common at a
6:15,
6:15, will you?
6.
And then make that a point, okay?
Okay, that suits me fine.
Right to be.